సభకు నమస్కారం. ఇవాళ మన వయోధిక పాత్రికేయ సంఘం యువ పాత్రికేయుల సౌలభ్యం కోసం రూపొందించిన వయోధిక పాత్రికేయుల అనుభవాలు జ్ఞాపకాలు కార్యక్రమాన్ని ఏర్పాటు చేయడం జరిగింది. సుప్రసిద్ధ పాత్రికేయులు 55 సంవత్సరాల పాత్రికేయ జీవితంలో ఎన్నెన్నో విశేష అనుభవాలను అమూల్యమైన జ్ఞాపకాలను కలిగిన వారు ఎస్ వెంకటనారాయణ గారు. వారు ఇండిపెండెంట్ మల్టీమీడియా జర్నలిస్టుగా, దక్షిణాసియా విదేశీ పాత్రికేయుల క్లబ్ అధ్యక్షులుగా ఇప్పటికీ తన 80 సంవత్సరాల పడిలోనూ చురుకుగా పనిచేస్తున్నారు. వారిని వాళ్ళ మనం తమ అనుభవాలు జ్ఞాపకాలు కార్యక్రమంలో పాల్గొని తమ అనుభవాలు వివరించవలసిగా కోరాము. వారు దయతో అంగీకరించి ఢిల్లీ నుంచి వచ్చారు. వారిని వేదిక మీదకి ఆహ్వానిస్తున్నాను. అట్లాగే మా కార్యక్రమానికి అధ్యక్షత వహించవలసింది మా అధ్యక్షులైన దాసు కేశవరావు గారు. కానీ వారు అనివార్య కారణాల వల్ల నగరంలో లేకుండా పోయారు. అందుచేత అనేక పత్రికలకు, తెలుగు ఇంగ్లీష్ పత్రికలకు ఇటీవల వరకు సంపాదకులుగా వ్యవహరించిన సుప్రసిద్ధ పాత్రికేయులు సీనియర్ జర్నలిస్టు రామచంద్రమూర్తి గారిని అధ్యక్షత వహించవలసిందిగా. మీరు మా వయోధిక పాత్రికేయ సంఘం గౌరవ సభ్యులు కూడా. ఈనాటి కార్యక్రమానికి ముఖ్య అతిథిగా రావాల్సిందిగా మేము కోరగానే అంగీకరించిన సీనియర్ పాత్రికేయులు మీడియా అకాడమీ అధ్యక్షులైన అల్లం నారాయణ గారు వచ్చారు. వారిని కూడా వేదిక మీదకి ఆహ్వానిస్తున్నాను. ఇంకా వెంకటనారాయణ గారు 1968లో అహ్మదాబాద్లో టైమ్స్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా రిపోర్టర్గా తన వృత్తి జీవితాన్ని ప్రారంభించారు. 1975లో ది సండే టైమ్స్ ఆఫ్ లండన్లో సమ్మర్ స్కాలర్గా లండన్లో పనిచేశారు. ఆ తర్వాత ది బోస్టన్ గ్లోబ్లో గెస్ట్ రైటర్గా బోస్టన్లో పనిచేశారు. వీరి పాత్రికేయ జీవితంలో భారత ప్రధానులైన శ్రీమతి ఇందిరాగాంధీ, రాజీవ్ గాంధీ, పివి నరసింహారావు, విపి సింగ్, ఇందర్ కుమార్ గుజ్రాల్ మాత్రమే కాకుండా పాకిస్తాన్ అధ్యక్షుడు జనరల్ జియా ఉల్ హక్, పాకిస్తాన్ ప్రధానులు బేనజీర్ భుట్టో, ఇమ్రాన్ ఖాన్, శ్రీలంక అధ్యక్షుడు జేఆర్ జయవర్ధనే, చంద్రికా కుమారతుంగ మహేంద్ర రాజపక్ష, జింబాబ్వే అధ్యక్షుడు రోబర్ట్ ముగాబే, భూటాన్ రాజు జిగ్మే సింగ్ చుక్ లాంటి ఎందరో డిగ్నిటీలను ఇంటర్వ్యూ చేశారు. 1983లోనే మహానటుడు, ఉమ్మడి ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ ముఖ్యమంత్రి ఎన్టీ రామారావు సంక్షిప్త జీవిత చరిత్రను మీరు ఇంగ్లీష్లో రాశారు. హుజరాబాద్ సమీపంలో గల కమలాపూర్, అక్కడ పుట్టి వెంకటనారాయణ గారు నిజాం కళాశాలలో జర్నలిజం డిగ్రీ పొందారు. ఆ తర్వాత ఉస్మానియా విశ్వవిద్యాలయం జర్నలిజంలో పోస్ట్ గ్రాడ్యుయేషన్ పూర్తి చేసి ప్రథముడుగా వచ్చి షోయబుల్లా ఖాన్ బంగారు పథకాన్ని కూడా వారు సాధించారు. జర్నలిజంలో మీరు చేసిన కృషికి గుర్తింపుగా కాకతీయ విశ్వవిద్యాలయం గౌరవ డాక్టరేట్ కూడా ఇచ్చింది. అయితే ఉన్న విశేషాలని నేనే చెప్పకుండా ఈ కార్యక్రమం వారి ద్వారా వారి అనుభవాలు జ్ఞాపకాలు చెప్పించేది కాబట్టి ఇక్కడ ఆపేస్తాను. వారిని సత్కరించవలసిందిగా మన సభ్యులను కోరుతున్నాను. ఈలోగా వారి సౌకర్యార్థం మా వయోధిక పాత్రికేయ సంఘం గురించి చిన్నగా పరిచయం చేస్తాను. వయోధిక పాత్రికేయుల ఆరోగ్య సమస్యల పరిష్కారం నిమిత్తమై (2005) డిసెంబర్ మాసంలో దివంగత జర్నలిస్టు మల్లిక్ నేతృత్వంలో కొందరు పాత్రికేయులు సమావేశమై చర్చించి 60 సంవత్సరాల వయసు, 20 సంవత్సరాల పూర్తికాల పాత్రికేయ వృత్తిలో అనుభవం ఉన్నవారిని సభ్యులుగా చేర్చుకోవాలని తీర్మానించి జిఎస్ వరదాచారి గారి అధ్యక్షతన ఈ సంస్థను ఏర్పాటు చేయడం జరిగింది. వయోధిక పాత్రికేయుల ఆరోగ్య సమస్యల పరిష్కారం నిమిత్తమై అప్పుడు సమాచార శాఖ కమిషనర్లుగా ఉన్న కొంతకాలంలోనే రాజశేఖర రెడ్డి గారు రాజీవ్ ఆరోగ్యశ్రీ పథకంలో పదవీ విరమణ చేసిన జర్నలిస్టులు, వర్కింగ్ జర్నలిస్టులకు చేర్చి వారు ఆరోగ్యశ్రీని అమలు చేశారు. ఈ పథకం కొంతకాలం అమలు జరిగింది, కానీ కొంతకాలంగా కొంత కుంటినడక నడుస్తుంది. అంటే తొలుత కేవలం వయోధిక జర్నలిస్టుల ఆరోగ్య సమస్యల నిమిత్తమై మాత్రమే ఏర్పాటైన ఈ సంస్థ ఆ సమస్య పరిని కూడా సాధించగలిగాం. ఇంకా ఏమి చేస్తే బాగుంటుంది? సంస్థలో అందరూ పదవి విరమణ చేసిన జర్నలిస్టులు ఉన్నప్పటికీ రచనలు చేస్తున్నవారు, క్రియాశీలంగా వ్యవహరిస్తున్నవారు కూడా చాలామంది ఉన్నారు. వారి సేవలను ఉపయోగించుకోవాలని భావించి రాబోయే తరం వారికి ఉపకరించే కార్యక్రమాలు ఏమైనా చేపట్టాలని తీర్మానించడం జరిగింది. దాదాపు 2-3 ఏళ్ల కాలం కృషి చేసి దాదాపు 1200 మంది, అంటే దీంట్లో వైతాళికులు, కీర్తిశేషులు, ఇప్పుడు వర్ధమాన జర్నలిస్టులు అందరూ కలిసి వారి తాలూకు సమాచారాన్ని, ఫోటోలను సేకరించాము. ఆ సమాచారాన్ని మన పాత్రికేయ వెలుగులు అని తెలుగులో ది లిజెండ్స్ ఆఫ్ ఫోర్త్ ఎస్టేట్ శీర్షికన ఇంగ్లీష్లో 2 పుస్తకాలు వేశాము. ఇది భారీగా ఖర్చు అయింది. అయితే శాంతా బయోటెక్నిక్స్ అధినేత అయిన వరప్రసాద్ రెడ్డి మా ప్రణాళికను చూసి మేము అడగకుండానే ₹1,00,000 విరాళం ఇచ్చాడు. దాంతో మేము ఈ పుస్తకాన్ని రంగుల్లో 222 పేజీలు విస్తరించిన ఈ గ్రంథాన్ని లోగడ తెలుగులో కానీ ఇతర భాషల్లో కూడా ఒక రాష్ట్రంలో ఇలాంటి గ్రంథం వచ్చి ఉండదు. దాన్ని ముద్రించాము, దాన్ని ఘనంగా ఆవిష్కరించాము. మార్కెటింగ్కి కూడా దాంట్లో రోషయ్య గారు, అప్పుడు స్పీకర్గా ఉన్న మనోహర్ గారు, అక్కినేని నాగేశ్వరరావు గారు, డాక్టర్ నారాయణ రెడ్డి లాంటివి వచ్చారు. అవి హాట్ కేక్స్ లాగా అమ్ముడిపోయారు, ఒక పుస్తకం కూడా లేకుండా. ఆ డబ్బు వచ్చింది. మళ్ళీ ఏం చేద్దాం? మళ్ళీ ఒక క్వశ్చన్ మార్క్. అయితే యువకులకు పనికొచ్చే కార్యక్రమాలు, పుస్తకాలు వేద్దామని తీర్మానించి వరుసగా దాదాపు గత 15 సంవత్సరాలుగా మేము 20 పుస్తకాలు వేసాము. 20 పుస్తకాలు బహుశా మన రాష్ట్రంలో కాదు, ఏ జర్నలిస్టుల సంస్థ వేసి ఉండదు. దానితో పాటు యువ జర్నలిస్టులకు, ఆ తర్వాతి తరం వారికి కూడా పనికొచ్చే విధంగా ఉండాలని అనుభవాలు, జ్ఞాపకాలు అని ఒక ఉపన్యాస పరంపరను, అంటే 70 దాటిన వాళ్ళు, 80లో ఉన్నవాళ్ళతో మేము ఒకటి ఏర్పాటు చేశాము. వారి ఉపన్యాసాన్ని దాదాపు గంట సేపు వారిని మాట్లాడించి ఆ ఉపన్యాసాన్ని రాతపూర్వకంగా కూడా తీసుకుని అందరినీ కలిపి ఒక గ్రంథంగా తేవాలని మా ఆశయం. ఇప్పటి వరకు ఈ సిరీస్లో 7 మాట్లాడారు. ఎంఎస్ శర్మ గారితో ప్రారంభించాం. అప్పుడు ఆయన 90 సంవత్సరాల యువకుడు. అప్పుడు ఆయన చాలా ఉత్సాహంగా వచ్చి మాట్లాడినారు. ఆ తర్వాత ఈ మధ్య కొంచెం కుంటుపడింది ఈ కార్యక్రమం. మళ్ళీ 7వ వారిగా ఇవాళ మన వెంకటనారాయణ గారిని మేము ఆహ్వానించాము. వారి ఉపన్యాసం కూడా మేము మళ్ళీ రాయించి, వారు మాట్లాడితే వాళ్ళు ఇంగ్లీష్లో మాట్లాడినా తెలుగులో మాట్లాడినా పర్వాలేదు, దాన్ని రాయించి అందరి ఉపన్యాసాలతో అనుభవాలు, జ్ఞాపకాలు గ్రంథాన్ని త్వరలో ప్రచురిస్తాం. ఈ అనుభవాలు, జ్ఞాపకాలు అన్నది సుప్రసిద్ధ రచయిత శ్రీపాద సుబ్రహ్మణ్య శాస్త్రి గారి జీవిత చరిత్రకు ఆయన పెట్టుకున్న పేరు. మనకు తెలుగులో ఉన్న జీవిత చరిత్రలో అమూల్యమైంది ఈ సుబ్రహ్మణ్య శాస్త్రి గారి జీవిత చరిత్ర. అదే పేరును మా ఉపన్యాస పరంపరకు కూడా మేము పెట్టుకున్నాము. ఇప్పుడు ఆయన గురించి ఆయనే చెబుతారు కాబట్టి ఎక్కువ చెప్పకుండా ఈనాడు మనకు అధ్యక్షులుగా ఉన్న రామచంద్రమూర్తి గారిని, ఆ తర్వాత నారాయణ గారిని వారి శుభాకాంక్షలు తెలిపి ఆ తర్వాత వారి ప్రసంగం ప్రారంభిస్తారని కోరుతుంది. ఇప్పుడు వెంకటనారాయణ గారిని సత్కరించాలని నవీన్ కుమార్ వచ్చాడు. ఆయన్ని వేదిక మీదకి ఆహ్వానిస్తున్నాను. ఇప్పుడు రామచంద్రమూర్తి గారు ప్రసంగిస్తారు. తర్వాత అది ఆయన ప్రసంగం చేసేటప్పుడు.
అందరికీ నమస్కారం. వెంకటనారాయణ గారి గురించి మీ అందరికీ తెలుసు. వాస్తవానికి ఈ ఉపన్యాస పరంపరని ప్రారంభించడంలో ప్రధాన ఉద్దేశం యువ జర్నలిస్టుకు ప్రయోజనం కలగాలని. యువ జర్నలిస్టుకు 4 ఉన్నారు. అయ్యా లక్ష్మణరావు గారు, ఈ కార్యక్రమం గురించి మీరు ప్రిన్సిపల్స్ ఆఫ్ ఈనాడు జర్నలిజం స్కూల్, సాక్షి జర్నలిజం స్కూల్, ఆంధ్రజ్యోతి జర్నలిజం స్కూల్ చెప్తే, అట్లాగే ఇక్కడ ఎస్ఎం మెమోరియల్లో ఉంది సుబ్రహ్మణ్యం గారి ఇది ఉమామహేశ్వర గారి నాయకత్వంలో రచన స్కూల్ చెప్తే ఆ స్టూడెంట్స్ వస్తే బాగుంటుంది, వాళ్ళకి ప్రయోజనం ఉంటుంది. అదే అంటే మొత్తం అందరూ వైదికులు ఉన్నారు. వైదికులు కాబట్టి మీకు వెంకటనారాయణ గురించి చెప్పక్కర్లేదు. వెంకటనారాయణ గారు ఈజ్ ది ఓన్లీ జర్నలిస్ట్ ఇన్ ది వరల్డ్ పర్ హ్యాప్స్ హూ హ్యాజ్ ఇంటర్వ్యూడ్ సో మెనీ హెడ్స్ ఆఫ్ స్టేట్స్, క్వీన్స్, కింగ్స్, ప్రెసిడెంట్స్, ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్స్. ఒక 50 మందిని 60 మందిని ఇంటర్వ్యూ చేసే అవకాశం వెంకటనారాయణ గారికి వచ్చింది. పైగాక ఇన్ హిజ్ ఎర్లీ 30s హీ వాజ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ ఎడిటర్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా టుడేకి ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ ఎడిటర్గా ఉండగా, మనం ఇప్పుడు చాలా గొప్పగా చెప్పుకునే ఎన్డీటీవీ వ్యవస్థాపకుడు ఆయన్ని సెఫాలజిస్ట్గా నియమించిన ఘనత కూడా వెంకటనారాయణ గారి. ప్రణయరాయని ఇంకొక అతన్ని ఇద్దరిని సెఫాలజిస్ట్గా నియమించి సర్వే చేయమని చెప్పింది కూడా వెంకటనారాయణ గారే. అంతకంటే ముఖ్యంగా 1977లో మొరార్జీ దేశాయ్ గవర్నమెంట్ ఏర్పడిన తర్వాత, అది 2 ఏళ్లలో చరణ్ సింగ్ గవర్నమెంట్ కూడా అయిపోయిన తర్వాత ఎన్నికలు వచ్చినప్పుడు మొత్తం దేశం అంతా జరిగి ఇందిరాగాంధీతో కలిసి ఆమె విమానంలో ప్రయాణం చేసి ఆమె కాళ్ళ దగ్గర గొంతు కూర్చొని ప్రశ్నించి ఇంటర్వ్యూ చేసి ఇందిరాగాంధీ గెలవబోతున్నారని ఘంటాపథంగా చెప్పిన జర్నలిస్టు వెంకటనారాయణ గారు. అంటే ఒక 40 ఏళ్ల క్రితం ఒక పతాక స్థాయిలో పనిచేసిన వ్యక్తితో మనం ఈరోజున్నాం. ఆయన అనుభవాలు వినబోతున్నాం. ఆయన చెప్తారు కాబట్టి నేను ఎక్కువ చెప్పను. ఇందాక ఉడేవాళ్ళ గారు చెప్పారు మనం ఎక్కువసేపు మాట్లాడక్కర్లేదని. ఈ ఒక్క సలహా మాత్రం ఇద్దాం అనుకున్నా. ఎందుకంటే యువ జర్నలిస్ట్ బాగా వస్తే బాగుండేది. ఆదివారం ఉదయం కాబట్టి ఖాళీగా ఉంటుంది. ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ లేకనో లేకపోతే రావాలనే ఉద్దేశం లేకనో తెలీదు. అయితే వాళ్ళని ఆకర్షించే ప్రయత్నం మనం చేయాలి. వాళ్ళకే ఎక్కువ లాభం. ఇప్పుడు వెంకటనారాయణ గారు మాట్లాడితే వింటే ఇన్స్పైర్ కావాల్సింది వాళ్ళే. మనం ఇన్స్పైర్ చేసేది అనేది ఇప్పుడు ఈ వయసులో చేసే అవకాశం ఉన్న వాళ్ళు యువ జర్నలిస్ట్ని వచ్చి వాళ్ళని ఆకర్షించే ప్రయత్నం చేయవలసిందిగా కోరుతూ ధన్యవాదాలు.
మీడియా అకాడమీ అధ్యక్షులు అల్లం నారాయణ గారిని ప్రసంగించవచ్చు.
ఎస్ వెంకటనారాయణ గారిది మేము ఆయన మొత్తం వృత్తి అనుభవంలో సగం కూడా లేని వాళ్ళం. జీవగడ్డ అనే ఒక చిన్న పత్రిక పెట్టినప్పుడు దాంట్లో ఎల్లలు దాటిన జిల్లా వెలుగులని మేము ఒక కాలం పెట్టినాం. ఇప్పుడు ఆ ఎల్లలు దాటిన జిల్లా వెలుగులలో ఎస్ వెంకటనారాయణ గురించి రాసినాం. ఢిల్లీ నిజానికి కూడా ఇప్పటికి కూడా రామచంద్రమూర్తి గారికి అనుభవం ఉంది, చాలామందికి అనుభవం ఉంది. కానీ ఢిల్లీ రిపోర్టింగ్ అనేది మనకు అంతుపట్టిన విషయం ఇది. కానీ అక్కడ గెలిచి ఒక పత్రికా సంపాదకులై చాలామందిని, అంటే ఇందిరాగాంధీతో సహా కావచ్చు, చాలామందిని ఇంటర్వ్యూ చేసి తనకంటూ జర్నలిజంలో ఒక ముద్ర వేసుకున్న ఎస్ వెంకటనారాయణ గారి అనుభవాలు, జ్ఞాపకాలు సమావేశం పెట్టినందుకు ముందు వయోధిక పాత్రికేయ సంఘానికి కృతజ్ఞతలు, అభినందనలు. నిజానికి జర్నలిస్ట్లో అనుభవాలు ఏముంటాయి? నిన్ననే మన రామచంద్రమూర్తి గారు ఒక ఇంటర్వ్యూ చూసినాం. చెప్పుకుంటే చాలా ఉంటాయి. చక్రధర్ గారు కూడా అప్పుడప్పుడు రాస్తూ ఉంటారు. చాలా చర్చలు కూడా జరుగుతుంటాయి చక్రధర్ గారు రాసిన దాని మీద. చాలా అనుభవాలు ఉంటాయి కానీ మనం చెప్పుకోం. అమర్ కూడా ఏదో సంకల్పం అయితే ఉందని చెప్తున్నాడు. అనుభవాలు, మన అనుభవాలు ఇతరులకి ఉపయోగపడే అనుభవాలుగా ఉన్నప్పుడు తప్పనిసరిగా దీనికి ఒక గొప్ప విలువ వచ్చే అవకాశం ఉంది. జర్నలిజం దాదాపుగా 25 ఏళ్ళ వయసులో ఆయన జర్నలిజంలోకి వచ్చినారు. అది కూడా ఒక కమలాపూర్ లాంటి ప్రాంతం. దానికి ఇక్కడ జర్నలిజానికి సంబంధించిన మూలాలు కానీ, జర్నలిజానికి సంబంధించిన వాతావరణం కానీ ఉన్న ప్రాంతమేమి కాదు. ఆయన పుట్టిన ఊరు కమలాపూర్. కానీ మొట్టమొదటి అహ్మదాబాద్ లాంటి చోట పనిచేసి ఆ తర్వాత ఢిల్లీలో దాదాపుగా 55 సంవత్సరాలు వృత్తిలో ఉండడము, ఇప్పటికీ ఒక యాక్టివ్ క్రియాశీలకమైన జర్నలిస్ట్గా ఉండడం అనేది ఒక వింతే. మన దగ్గర అట్లాంటి వాళ్ళల్లో ఏబికే కనబడతాడు. ఆయన ఇప్పటికీ ఏదో రాస్తూ ఉంటాడు, మనం చదువుతూ ఉంటాం. ఆయన ఇంతకుముందు ఎంత కంప్లీట్గా రాసేవాడు అంత కంప్లీట్గా రాస్తుంటాడు. అట్లాంటి ఒక పర్సనాలిటీగా తీసుకున్నప్పుడు తెలుగునాట ఇక్కడున్న పరిస్థితులలో పనిచేయడం వేరు, ఢిల్లీ లాంటి ప్రాంతాలలో పనిచేయడము, కీర్తికెక్కడము, పనిచేయడము, నిబద్ధతతో పనిచేయడము, ఎడిటర్ దాకా పోవడం అనేది ఒక ఆశ్చర్యకరమైన పరిణామం. ఎక్కడి నుంచి ఎక్కడి దాకా వచ్చిందనేది ఆయన జీవితంలో చాలా ముఖ్యమైన ఘట్టం. ఇట్లాంటి విలువైన అనుభవాలున్న జర్నలిస్ట్ లోకానికి, ముఖ్యంగా యంగ్స్టర్స్ తెలియాల్సిన చాలా విషయాలు ఇట్లాంటి వాళ్ళ దగ్గరే ఉన్నాయి. ఎందుకంటే ఆయన ఇప్పుడు మోడర్న్ జర్నలిజం అని చెప్పుకుంటున్న కొత్త, అంటే కమ్యూనికేషన్ రెవల్యూషన్ వచ్చిన తర్వాత వచ్చిన డిజిటల్ మీడియా కావచ్చు, సోషల్ మీడియా కావచ్చు, ఈ పరిణామాలలో యాక్టివ్గా ఉన్నాడు ఆయన. అది ఆశ్చర్యం. చాలామంది ప్రింట్ మీడియాలో పనిచేసిన వాళ్ళు కావచ్చు. ఆ తర్వాత మూర్తి గారికి అయితే 2 అనుభవాలు ఉన్నాయి. ఎలక్ట్రానిక్ మీడియా, ప్రింట్ మీడియా, ఈ 2 కూడా అనుభవాలు ఉన్నాయి ఆయనకి. తర్వాతి కాలంలో చాలామంది ఇన్యాక్టివ్ అవ్వడం చూసినాం. ఇది చాట్ జీపీటీ కాలం. అంటే మన మనుషుల్లోని మేధనే ఇంకో రూపంలో వస్తుందా, మన మనుషుల మేధ అవసరమే ఉండదా అనేంత చర్చ జరుగుతుంది. చాట్ జీపీటీ యుగంలో, డిజిటల్ యుగంలో మనం చాలా సవాళ్ళను ఎదుర్కోవాల్సి ఉన్నది అనేది అర్థమవుతూ ఉన్న కాలం. అంటే ఇట్లాంటి వాటిల్లో కూడా 80 సంవత్సరాలు దాదాపుగా ఉన్న వయసులో క్రియాశీలకంగా ఉండడం అనేది ఒక ఆదర్శం. ఈ ఆదర్శం కావచ్చు, ఆయన విలువైన అభిప్రాయాలు కావచ్చు, అనుభవాలు కావచ్చు, జ్ఞాపకాలు కావచ్చు, కొత్త తరం జర్నలిస్టులకి నిజంగా తెలవాల్సి ఉన్నది. ఇది మనమే కాకుండా నిజంగా మూర్తి గారు చాలా విలువైన అది ఇచ్చినారు. ఇంకొంచెం ఏదైనా సాధ్యపడితే మళ్ళీ ఒకసారి మాట్లాడతాను మీతో నేను. అంటే ఎట్లా పూల్ చేయగలం, ఎందుకంటే దీనికి బాగా వాల్యూ ఎక్కడ యాడెడ్ అవుతుందంటే కొత్త జర్నలిస్ట్ రావడము, కొత్తగా వృత్తిలోకి వస్తున్న వాళ్ళు వస్తే వాళ్ళకి విలువైన అభిప్రాయాలు ఉపయోగపడతాయని నేను భావిస్తున్నాను. నిజంగానే కొంత ప్రయత్నం చేద్దాం. ఇదొక విలువైన కార్యక్రమాన్ని మీరు తీసుకున్నారు. నాకు ఇంతకుముందు కూడా మిత్రులు కొందరు అన్నారు, ఇదే కాకుండా ఒక చాలా మన దగ్గర కూడా తెలుగులో ఉన్న వాళ్ళందరిట్లలో ఎడిటర్గా చేసిన వాళ్ళు కావచ్చు, లేదా బ్యూరో చీఫ్గా చేసిన వాళ్ళు కావచ్చు, అయితే ఇవన్నీ కూడా కొంచెం ఇంకా చేసి భవిష్యత్తులో చేద్దాం. నేను కూడా మీకు నాకు వీలైనంత వరకు సహకరిస్తాను. తప్పనిసరిగా ఈ కార్యక్రమాన్ని విజయవంతం చేయాలని కోరుకుంటూ ఎస్ వెంకట నారాయణ గారికి ఆల్ ది వే ఢిల్లీ నుంచి వచ్చి ఈ కార్యక్రమంలో పాల్గొంటున్నందుకు కృతజ్ఞతలు తెలియజేస్తూ సెలవు. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
ఇప్పుడు మనం ఎదురు చూస్తున్న కార్యక్రమం ప్రారంభం కానుంది. వారు మొదట తమ గురించి తాము కొంత ప్రసంగించిన తర్వాత ఎవరైనా ప్రశ్నలు అడిగితే సమాధానాలు చెప్తారు. అంతకుముందు వారికి ముందు సత్కారం. ఇది మైక్ అక్కడ పెట్టింది సార్.
వేదికను అలంకరించిన మిత్రులు, తర్వాత మీరందరికీ నమస్కారం. నేను ఇక్కడ కాలేజీలో చదువు పూర్తి చేసుకొని నా వర్కింగ్ లైఫ్ అంతా ఉత్తర భారతంలో జరిగింది. అహ్మదాబాద్ టైమ్స్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా మొదలెట్టాను 68లో. 69లో నేను ఢిల్లీకి వెళ్ళాను. 75లో ఇంగ్లాండ్లో సండే టైమ్స్ అక్కడ ఒక స్కాలర్షిప్ మీద పోయి అక్కడ పనిచేశాను. 78లో బాస్టన్ యునైటెడ్ స్టేట్స్లో పనిచేశాను. ఢిల్లీ బేసికలీ నా బేస్ ఉండే, అక్కడనే ఉంటున్నాను. హైదరాబాద్లో ఎప్పుడూ పనిచేసే అవకాశం నాకు దొరకలేదు. అయినా కూడా ద లవ్ అండ్ అఫెక్షన్ people at large and journalist community in particular show towards me overwhelms me, and I'm grateful for that. I'm not really used to talking about myself because that would be seen as immodest. So I'm more comfortable discussing my life with all of you. Murthy Garu has known me for a long time, Narayan Garu kudanu. So let them ask me some questions and then I'll respond to them. I think that is a better way of telling you something about my life and sharing my experiences. So may I now request Murthy Garu and Narayan Garu to shoot questions at me, and I'll tell you my life story by answering those questions. Thank you.
How did you become a journalist? Who inspired you?
It all began in my village, Kamalapuram. I was a student in Jilla Parishad High School. I was in class 9 or I don't remember now. I used to write letters to the editor of newspapers, Andhra Jyoti and Andhra Bhumi. I used to buy a postcard for half an hour, 1 hour, I don't remember, and scribble, some complaint saying that in my village the post office is not functioning properly, or the police station does not exist. It's a village of 10,000 people and we need security. So we demand that a police station should be installed there, or the post office is not big enough, or a bus which normally should stop at the bus stand does not stop. It goes and stops 200 meters away from that. So elderly people, children have a problem running and catching the bus. All, small issues that affect people in villages. I used to write letters to the editor, and 3-4 days later, those letters used to appear in the newspaper. Then a school magazine was started in my village school called Gautami. Then they were looking for an editor and they announced an essay writing competition, and whoever writes the best essay would be made the editor. So then when they held the essay writing competition, I also took part in that and I wrote the essay. I can't remember what the subject was. This was nearly 60 years ago. So 2-3 days later, one of the teachers said, "We found your essay the best, you will be the editor." So I said, "But I don't know anything about being an editor, what do I have to do?" Then they said, "You write some articles or poems and then we'll publish them. We'll also ask the students, other students also to contribute to the magazine." So that is how I began writing articles, and I even wrote some poems. And some of my friends who used to read my letters to the editor in the Telugu papers, they would come up and say, "We want to see our names also in print. So why don't you write an article and give it to us and print it in my name?" That kind of stuff. So the whole magazine was full of articles and poems written by me, but they would appear in the names of different friends of mine, So after the magazine was started, I think for 2 or 3 years, I was still in school till I finished class 10 at that point of time. I continued to be the editor. Then I went to Nizam College to do my pre-university, PUC they used to call in those days. So once I came to Hyderabad, I began writing letters instead of Telugu in English and sent them to the Deccan Chronicle. And they used to publish those letters in the Chronicle. Then after I finished my graduation with English, French, politics and economics, I was trying to figure out what to do. So some friends said, "Well, you have a flair for writing, why don't you become a journalist?" I said, "What do I have to do for that?" They said, "There is a department of journalism in the Usmania University, and go and see, they admit students once a year, and they have an admission paper. You have to sit for an exam, and then if you qualify, then they select you, and then you spend a year doing a course for postgraduate degree in journalism called BJ, Bachelor of Journalism." So one day I went to the Arts College. S.A. Govindarajan was the head of the department at that point of time. Yeah, that's right. So then I went and wrote the entrance test. Then I went to spend my summer vacation with a brother of mine who used to live in Ooty. After a month I came back and went to see what is happening. I went to see the list of people who have been selected to do the course, and I saw my name on top of the list. So I was happy. Then I joined the course. We used to have a magazine called Usmania Courier. It's a fortnightly issue. I don't know if it's still coming out or not. Then we used to edit that publication by turns and interview people who came to visit the university or students who came from abroad and that sort of thing. And so that is how I got interested in journalism and began my career.
And what happened? Where did you join?
Okay. So after I finished my BJ course, I was waiting for the results, and UNI used to be headed by D. Sitaram in those days. And so I said, I finished my exams, I'm waiting for results to come. He said, you come and work in our office and see how a news agency operates. Then he used to take me to the assembly. Once Mrs. Gandhi, Indira Gandhi came to inaugurate the Nagarjuna Sagar project, so I also went along with a bunch of journalists who went from here to Nagarjuna Sagar. Then at that time, the Press Institute of India ran some kind of workshop for journalists in Hyderabad at the working journalists office near Bashir Bagh. So since I finished my exams, I was curious about journalism, and then I went and attended all those classes and took active interest in the proceedings. So after this, the workshop was over, Chanchal Sarkar, who was the director of the Press Institute of India, came up to me and took my address. I didn't know why he took it, but anyway, I gave them my address. Then he went away to Delhi, and then I went home. Then Govindarajan was the head of the department. I think by then the results had come. I stood first in the university and won the Shobullah Khan gold medal. They also had a competition named after Kasa Subbarao. Yes, it used to be the best article published while you are a student of journalism. Then they would give a prize, a cash award of 100 rupees. It was started by Vaman Rao Garu, who used to work for the Hindu in those days. So that year, an article I wrote on George Bernard Shaw and published in the Chronicle received, it was judged as the best article published by a student. So that year, apart from the gold medal, that one also I won. So when I went to Govindarajan and said, I need to work, I need a job, can you help? He said, one of my contemporaries in Vijayawada, he is a news editor. I don't remember his name, Krishna Swami, Rangaswamy, whatever. Rangaswamy, okay, yeah. So he said, you take this letter and go and see him in Vijayawada. So one day I took the train and went to Vijayawada, and the streets were full of pigs, and I was not very comfortable with the idea of living in a city where, pigs are roaming freely and all that. So anyway, I went to see Mr. Rangaswamy and I had a chat with him, and he said, I want to see how you write. Why don't you write something and give it to me on any subject you like? Then that will give me an idea about how you write, and we will decide. So then I said, give me a typewriter, I'll type out something. The previous night, I saw in Hyderabad, I think Palace Cinema, it's not there anymore, a film called The Guide. It is based on, Devanand. It is based on a book by Pearl S. Buck, a Nobel Prize winner for literature, but made into a film by Devanand. He plays the hero, Wahida Rahman the heroine, and his brother Vijay Anand was the director. So I wrote a 500-word review of that film, and I said, so the guide was actually written by R.K. Narayan, I beg your pardon, R.K. Narayan, the famous writer, the guide. So I ended that article by saying that if the role of the heroine called Rosie was played by Wahida Rahman, and writer Narayan could not have chosen a better person to play Wahida Rahman's role, Rosie, because she was so good in it or something like that. So when Rangaswamy read that article, he was quite impressed and he said, okay, I'm very happy to give you a job as a sub-editor. We'll pay you 150 rupees, and after 6 months the probation gets over, then we'll pay you a little more money and put you on a permanent job. 150 rupees, I have to go to Vijayawada, live in that place, seeing the pigs every day on the streets. I have to take a place on rent, then I have to either cook or go and eat outside. The economics was not working out and I had to support my parents. So then I wrote a letter to Chanchal Sarkar saying that I just passed out and I'm looking for a job. I wonder if there is any job you know of, you can help. See, he wrote me a letter saying that a gentleman called Ramo Patel is starting a newspaper called Western Times in Ahmedabad. He is looking for staff. I have given him your address. He might hear, you might hear from him. A few days later, I got a letter from Ramo Patel saying that your name has been recommended to us by Chanchal Sarkar. We are looking for staff and we would like you to come and join us as a sub-editor. We will pay you 350 rupees per month. So 350 was obviously better than 150. Then I jumped at it and then I telegrammed Chanchal Sarkar. I said 350 rupees in a faraway town may be a bit of a challenge to manage, and if it would be nice if you could persuade your friend to pay more or something. So I got a telegram back saying that you're just beginning your career, so let's play by the ear what happens. So then I went and joined the Western Times. After a few months, the Times of India announced plans to launch an edition in Ahmedabad. So then their general manager P.K. Roy flew in from Bombay and began interviews. I went and appeared for the interview, and they also met a lot of other journalists. So at the end of the day, P.K. Roy told R.V. Raman, who used to be the Times of India editor, correspondent in Hyderabad, Chutta Ramarao and D. Sitaram, they were all contemporaries at that point of time. So then they said, okay, we found one reporter called Venkat Narayan, but we need at least 30-40 people to actually edit and produce. So we need people where Gujarat, English medium was not very popular in those days. You could not find anybody who could speak fluently in English. So they had to import people from the south, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai and all that. And that is how the newspaper started in Ahmedabad. And I was one of the reporters there, and the Times of India is very popular in Gujarat, just like it is in Bombay, in Maharashtra. And the paper used to be flown and distributed only in the afternoons of that day, but people would still wait for that newspaper. And I remember Indulal Yagnik, a very veteran politician in Ahmedabad. Whenever he announced that I am holding a press conference, even if there are 50 people waiting for the press conference, he will say, Times walo aaye kya? Has the reporter from the Times of India arrived? If somebody told him, yes, he has arrived, then chalo, lakho, Okay, now you write down, he would dictate his statement in Gujarati and it was hilarious, that was the kind of class. So this is how I began my life as a reporter, Murthy garu.
You almost settled down as a journalist. You tell us something about your family, your parents, your siblings, and how you got married. It was arranged or love marriage?
Okay. Well, I was born in a middle class family in Kamlapur. My parents had 13 children. I was the last of the 13, Padamodu. So, but by the time I became 10 or 12 years old, most of my siblings were dead. Only 3 brothers and 1 sister were alive, but they knew nothing about journalism. This was, I was born in 43, so it was still British India. My father used to work in Hyderabad. So my brothers, one of my brothers said, I refuse to learn English because it is the language of our rulers. But he learned Hindi, Dakshin Bharat, the Hindi Prachar Sabha and all that kind of stuff. So in my family there was nobody with journalism as a profession. And when I went to Delhi during the very first year, I met a young lady who is also Telugu. She was born in Kolar, but her father was working in Bombay. She was doing her research in Russian studies in School of International Studies in Sapro House in Delhi. I met her in a hostel where I used to go for lunch every day and all that. So one day this young lady came and she was sitting with 2 bottles of pickle, pachadi, mango pickle and green chilies pickle on one. So being a Telugu guy, when I saw this, I couldn't resist. I said, you made this yourself? She said, yes. Can I taste it? She said, yes, and she gave it to me and I liked that. So that is how I used to go every day at a time when she also used to come for our lunch. And then we became friends. Then I proposed to her. It so happens that when I proposed to her, I said, you write a letter to my father. I wrote a letter to her father. And, given that I was making only 400 rupees, he was a chartered accountant and father of 2 daughters, and he didn't know anything about me, so I never got a reply. So when I told this young lady, I said, I didn't get a reply from your father. So she said, write 1 more letter. I wrote a 2nd letter, no response. So then again she suggested, after a month you write 1 more letter. If you don't, and my father does not reply, then we'll go ahead and get married, have a civil marriage. I said, okay. So that's what I did. There was no response from the 3rd letter also. So we went ahead and got married and had a civil marriage. It so happened that she was a Brahmin, but I don't think religion had anything to do, the caste had anything to do with it. And I was born in a Padmashali family, but caste never mattered in my life till today. Only when I come to Telangana, people talk about communities, caste and all that. Yesterday they had nobody asked me my caste in India today, nobody asked me in the Times of India or London Times or Boston Globe. So I feel very upset when I come to Telangana, people still talk about caste, and politics is dominated by caste, not just in Telangana, all over the country and all that. But I chose a profession where, at least in Delhi, caste does not matter, and my merit is what gave me jobs. And I never went looking for jobs. I always got the jobs, and I'm grateful to God for that.
What was his experience during emergency? Where were you and what were you doing?
So happened that I got the Sunday Times summer scholarship. There is a story behind that. Sir Harold Evans, who was editor of the Sunday Times, it was during his time that the Sunday Times was rated as one of the 10 great newspapers in the world. I was working in the Press Institute, where we used to get the London papers, the Observer and the Sunday Times and the Economist. I used to read all those papers very carefully. Once when, I don't remember, maybe 74 or something, Kurt Waldheim, the then UN Secretary General, had come to Delhi to inaugurate a conference called One Asia Assembly. So I had gone to attend that summit in Ashoka Hotel. Then I found that this small gentleman, Sir Harold Evans, was a speaker there and he was sitting there. So I went up to him and I got talking to him, and he broke some of the great stories of the era. I mean, in those days, the thalidomide case, I don't know, this drug which was produced for pregnant women, when they took that drug, they gave birth to children with deformities. It became a huge case, and eventually thalidomide had to stop producing that drug because of the campaign launched by the Sunday Times, and they paid millions of dollars to mothers who produced deformed babies and all that. Then he also ran a story about the plane that fell from the sky. I remember the headline. Where it happened, I don't remember now, but that was about a plane accident. And then there was a big expose on Jomo Kenyatta, who was the president of Kenya for many years, and how corrupt his regime was and all that kind of. So when I was discussing these stories with the editor, Sir Harold Evans, he seemed surprised as somebody sitting thousands of miles away is following what we are writing. And then I think I gave him a visiting card, or I don't know, he took my address or something. A month after that, I got a letter from the Sunday Times from his secretary saying that my editor says he met you and he asked me to write to you. We offer 2 summer scholarships every year, one for a global, anywhere in the world, and one for a English journalist. So my editor thinks that you may be interested in applying for the other scholarship, for which there is competition from all over the world. If you are interested, please send your articles and your biodata for consideration. So I said, global competition, that's a bit of a challenge. Anyway, let me try my luck. So I sent some of my clippings and my biodata. It was reasonably impressive, with the gold medal and all, and a Kasa Subbarao award with article on George Bernard Shaw and all that. And so 3 weeks later, I received a white envelope from London. I opened it with great curiosity, and they said it was from Peter Harland, that is secretary to the editor of the Sunday Times, saying that we are happy to inform you that you have been selected to be the global summer scholar this year. So please let us know when you will be able to come. The scholarship was for £500 and to be given over a 3-month period, and they will pay your airfare from Delhi to London and London to Delhi. And if you wrote any articles and if they are published in the paper, they will give you a byline and pay you money extra for that in addition to the £500. So that was a good deal. When I was preparing to go to London, Indira Gandhi declared emergency in June 1975. So I had a bit of a problem getting my passport and I don't know, all those things. But it so happened that, I was picked from a global competition. Everybody in the government was reasonably impressed and I had no difficulty. Then I went to London and I came back after 3 months. Every week during my stay in London, I published a byline piece. So at the end of 3 months, I made enough money to buy a U-Rail pass, which is a first-class ticket by rail to travel within the Europe I picked 11 countries for travel in 3 weeks. So traveled in 11 countries. And what happened when I was in Amsterdam, I went to see the Rijksmuseum, the famous Rijksmuseum, where they had paintings by Rembrandt and Van Gogh and a lot of people. So one painting called The Night Watch by Rembrandt, it's a celebrated painting. They were repairing it because a madman who was an unsuccessful painter, he went and slashed the painting across from top to bottom. It's a huge painting this big. I don't know if any of you got to see that. Then I asked the PRO of the museum, I said, what's going on? She said, some mad fellow tried to destroy it, and we called experts from the United States, and it will take another 3 months for them to fix this. I said, that's an interesting story. I said, can you give me 2 sheets of blank paper, and do you have any pictures of these people repairing the thing? She said, yes. Then I collected a bunch of paper. Then I scribbled an article, a brief thing with the pictures. Then a bunch of experts are, fixing all the damage done to this celebrated painting. And they'll take another 3 months for the painting to be readied and put on display once again. Then I borrowed an envelope from her and scribbled Sir Harold Evans' address on the envelope, put those things and stapled it and requested her, I have to catch a train to go to Vienna in Austria. I don't have the time to go to the post office to post this letter. I'll be grateful if you can post it. She said she posted it. Then from Vienna I went to some other place, and I was, on one Sunday I was in Zurich in Switzerland. So I just went to a newsstand, and they had newspapers, from all over Europe. I picked up the Sunday Times, and then when I opened it, on page 6 or whatever, they used a picture of the painting being repaired, a half page, and they wrote a built-in caption. Our correspondent S. Venkat Narayan reports from Amsterdam that this painting damaged by a mad fellow is being repaired by experts. It will take another 3 months or whatever and all that. I was very happy. So that was a very fascinating experience, traveling in Europe. And I think before I boarded the train in Waterloo Station, I bought a phrase book in which you have English words equivalent to French, Russian, German, and several other European languages. So if you landed up in Rome, you learned the equivalent of hello, good morning, how are you, or can I have a glass of water, that kind of stuff. So it was a very enriching experience, and that's how I developed an interest in traveling around the world. As of now, I have been to 68 countries in all the continents, and I still have to catch up with a few more countries. That is the story. Please. I didn't get it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, experiences. It's very fascinating. Some of the people I interviewed include Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, P.V. Narasimha Rao, Inder Gujral, Morarji Desai, Vajpayee, V.P. Singh, of course, and in Sri Lanka, Jayawardena, Chandrika, and Ranil Wickremesinghe, in Pakistan, General Ziaul Haq and Benazir Bhutto, and more people than now I can recall readily. But I find Indira Gandhi was the most interesting person I interacted with. It happened in Telangana, in fact in Medak. See what happened after Indira Gandhi refused to support Charan Singh on the day Parliament was to meet, and when he had to prove his majority, she sent CM Stephen to withdraw report to the government, and that's how Charan Singh had to resign as the Prime Minister without facing Parliament. So Sanjay Reddy announced elections. So then I sent word to Mrs. Gandhi's office saying that if she's going on election campaign, I would like to go with her to write an article about her campaigning style and all that. At that point of time, Indira Gandhi's relations with India Today, I was in India Today at that time, were not very good. They wrote nasty stuff about Sanjay Gandhi and all those things. And but it so happened that when I proposed this to somebody who was helping her with press relations, I forget that guy's name. He used to edit Dinman, which is a Hindi magazine published by the Times of India Group. So he said, Mrs. Gandhi she doesn't care much for India Today because they have been very nasty to her son and all that. So then I said, well, I have just joined India Today, I have nothing to do with it. But I did cover Mrs. Gandhi when she came to Bombay when I was editing the Onlooker magazine. She came on a campaign trip. So I went in a car from Bombay up to Pune, where she stopped in different cities and made speeches and all that, and she came back. Even at that point of time, at the height of the Shah Commission hearings, there were huge numbers of people who flocked to see what she looks like. When we were driving back from Pune, it already became dark, but people were wanting to see her. There were no mobile phones at that time, no lights or anything. Somebody had a tube light which was switched on in the jeep in which Mrs. Gandhi was travelling. I was following in a car behind her so that people can see her face. And people standing on either side of the road, they would watch her and clap and that kind of stuff. So I said, my God, even at the height of the Shah Commission hearings, the newspapers every day ran stories about her misdeeds or what Sanjay Gandhi did, whatever, but it didn't seem to matter to the people at large. Then I wrote a cover story in Onlooker magazine. Somebody sent me a photograph of Indira Gandhi, making a speech like this. I put that on the cover, and the headline was, I shall come back. So that cover magazine, somebody from Bombay went and showed it to Mrs. Gandhi and said, who has written the article? I said, somebody called Mr. Narayan, we don't know anything about him. I said, okay. So that copy of the magazine was with me when I went to meet the editor, the PR man of Mrs. Gandhi. And then he took it and showed it to Mrs. Gandhi, and she suddenly remembered somebody 2 years ago brought and showed that. She said, okay, he can come. So then I went with Mrs. Gandhi. We spent about a week traveling all over the country. Incidentally, that was a plane owned by a Telugu businessman. Even today I don't know his name. But he gave it to her and said, Madam, you use it for your campaign purposes, and after the campaign is over, you give it back to me or something like that. So we began in several places, including V.C. Shukla's constituency, then Vasant Sate's constituency, Nagpur, and then we entered Andhra Pradesh and we went to Medak. In Medak, she was filing for her nomination. That year she contested from two constituencies, Medak and another constituency, I don't remember, I think Raebareli, our old constituency. Chikmagalur is earlier, earlier Chikmagalur, not that time. So then it was in Medak. Mrs. Gandhi and Chenna Reddy, P.V. Narasimha Rao, Shiv Shankar, Nedrumala Janardhan Reddy, they were traveling with her in the same jeep, and the jeep was driving to the collector's office, and I was given a jeep. There were some local journalists with cameras, and I had a camera which I had bought in London when I was there in 1975. I was taking pictures and one fellow suddenly got up from my car, Indira Gandhi Zindabad. I said, hello, who the hell are you? He said, Anna, నీ బంచ నీ కాలు మొక్కుతున్నాయి, నన్ను వెళ్ళగొట్టుకోండి. ఎవడరా నువ్వు అని అంటే, నా పేరు హనుమంతరావు, రెడ్డికి నాకు ఇష్టం లేదు, అందుకనే ఇందిరాగాంధీ నన్ను చూడాలని ఏదో గొడవ చేస్తున్నారు. So then we went to the collector's office. Then we were waiting for Mrs. Gandhi. You know, she was taken to some other place to freshen up and then come to the collector's office to file the nomination. Suddenly somebody comes running on a motorcycle and said, you know, Mrs. Gandhi is saying, I had some journalists coming from Delhi. Where are they? You get them here. Otherwise I won't have lunch. మీరు ఎవరన్నా వచ్చారనంటే అవునంటే, సార్ మీరు భోజనానికి రండి సార్, మేడం తినను అంటున్నది, అన్లెస్ యూ కమ్. ఐ వాస్ వెరీ ఎంబారస్డ్ అండ్ సర్ప్రైజ్. ఎనీవే పోయేమో వచ్చాం. దట్ ఈస్ వేర్ ఐ మెట్ పివి నరసింహారావు ఫర్ ద ఫస్ట్ టైం. నెదురుమల్లి జనార్దన్ రెడ్డి కమ్స్ టు మీ. అప్పుడు ఏమైందంటే, వైల్ వీ వర్ మూవింగ్, మిసెస్ గాంధీ వాజ్ పాయింటింగ్ టు అవర్ జీప్ అండ్ యునో ఐ డోంట్ నో వాట్ వాస్ గోయింగ్ ఆన్. ఆల్ ద తెలుగు పొలిటీషియన్స్ ఇట్లా అంటుంటారు, తలకాయలు ఇట్లా ఊపుతున్నారు. నెదురుమల్ల జనార్దన్ రెడ్డి వన్స్ వీ గాట్ ఇన్ టు ద కలెక్టర్స్ ఆఫీస్, ఏమంటే మీరు తెలుగువారా అని అడిగాను. అవునండి. అయ్యో అమ్మగారు మమ్మల్ని కోప్పడుతున్నది, మీకు తెలియదు ఆయన తెలుగు ఆయనే. ఎట్లా తెలుస్తుందండి, నేను ఐ ఫినిష్ మై ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఐ వెంట నా, సో ఐ నెవర్ వర్క్డ్ ఇన్ హైదరాబాద్, సో యూ నో మీ. దట్స్ వెన్ ఐ ఇంట్రడ్యూస్డ్ నరసింహారావు అండ్ స్టిల్ హీ డైడ్ వీ హావ్ బీన్ ఫ్రెండ్స్. ఆయన ప్రధానమంత్రి అయినా కూడాను, if I called up, I would take my calls, and you know, it was a very wonderful working relationship. I have not finished, just, yeah. So after Hyderabad, Medak, then I think Mrs. Gandhi addressed a meeting here, and then we went to Chennai. We drove through Rajahmundry and Kakinada and all that, and by the time we reached Chennai, it was midnight and it was raining. In the middle of Mount Road, they had a public meeting. Karunanidhi was there. She had a tie-up with the Karunanidhi elections, you know. So that night we flew back to Delhi. Then while flying, I sent a message to Mrs. Gandhi. I would like to do an interview with her. It will be part of the article I'm going to write. And so I got a message saying that she's very tired and she's not in the mood to give any interviews. I said, okay. Then I went back and wrote a 3-page article called Style and Stamina, and gave a graphic description of her style of doing things. If she was addressing a meeting in Telangana, she would learn from somebody, you know, what are the points she should make, what are the issues on which people would like to listen, and then how do you say vote for the hand symbol, Hastam Gurtuke Mana Votu. She would write it down on a piece of paper, and she would, after finishing speaking, Hastam Gurtuke Mana Votu, Jai Hind, Bolan Mood Sarla, she would make people, you know, say that, repeat it after her and all that kind of stuff. So I gave a graphic description of all this. Another thing she would do was, you know, in this plane, it's a very noisy plane. So next to the pilot's cabin, they created a small cabin, like first class thing in a regular plane. And Mrs. Gandhi would sit there, take some rest, and before she boarded, got down the plane to make a speech in, let's say, Nagpur, then she will get Vasant Sate and some local politicians and discuss about what are the issues she should be speaking about in Nagpur, and then she would make the speech and say what to say in Marathi, how to say Assam Gurtuke Mana Votu, you know, that kind of that, and how before she went, she would finish visiting the washroom and she would carry milk mixed with haldi in a bottle, and she would drink that to protect her throat, because in course of a day she would make dozens of speeches, no, in different parts of this, so that they became unpopular and they came back to power, and each one of them came back to power. It took them more than 10 years. Winston Churchill, Napoleon Bonaparte and Charles de Gaulle. But this tiny lady called Indira Gandhi is going to stage a comeback in 30 months flat. And that surely is a world record. Exclamation mark, end of the paragraph, end of the story. When that story appeared, it caused a sensation in the country. Mrs. Gandhi was campaigning in Bengal. When she came back to Calcutta on her way to fly back to Delhi, somebody took this article of mine and showed it to her. And she read it, and she asked everybody in the plane traveling with her to read it. So next morning, we were planning, we used to have an editorial meeting, we were planning the next issue. In the next issue, the opinion poll results were to be published. That was the first opinion poll to be held in the country, all over the country. And it was going to be done by Pranay Roy, Ashok Lahiri, and there, I forget, a chap who is a Parsi gentleman based in Bombay. All the three of them used to do opinion polls and discussions on NDTV for several years. I can't, it will come to me. Anyway, so then I get a call. My secretary comes and says, we were sitting in the editorial meeting planning what to do, what publish. And she said, there is a call for you. And I said, from where? Take a message. No, it is from Indira Gandhi's office and somebody wants to speak to him. I said, take a message, I'll return the call. So Arun Puri, who is the editor and owner, they said, oh, if it's Indira Gandhi's this thing, no, Venkat, you go and take the call. Then I picked up the phone and somebody comes on the line and I said, hello. They said, hello. My name is Yashpal Kapoor. तो नाम तो सुना ही होगा आप. ऐसे भैया आपका नाम कौन सुना नहीं सुना होगा, आपके मेहरबानी से तो she was unseated in Raebareli election campaign, you know. So I didn't say that to him at that time. So he said, इंदिरा जी ने कहा कि आपको थैंक यू बोलो. I said क्यों? नहीं, अब किसी ने भी नहीं लिखा, किसी के पास इतना हिम्मत नहीं थी कि वो चुनाव में जीत के आने वाली है और आपने लिखा इतना जबरदस्त मैच जीतने वाली, इसके लिए तो दम होता है. ऐसे हो सकता है, लेकिन मैं ये भी लिख सकता था अगर मुझे ऐसा लगा कि वो हारने वाली है, यू नो, शी कुड लूज, आई वुड हैव रिटन दैट आल्सो. वो अलग बात है, लेकिन मिसेस गांधी सेड थैंक यू, यू नो, प्लीज कन्वे माय थैंक्स टू हर. आई सेड दैट्स वेरी ग्रेशियस ऑफ हर, थैंक यू वेरी मच. आई वाज अबाउट टू पुट द फोन डाउन. ही सेड, वेंकट जी, इंदिरा जी कह रहे थे कि आप उनसे मिलना चाहते थे, इंटरव्यू करना चाहते थे, लेकिन शी वॉज वेरी टायर्ड. आई सेड हाँ, क्या आप अभी भी इंटरव्यू करना चाहते हैं? आई सेड इंदिरा गांधी को कौन पत्रकार मना करेगा यार? विच जर्नलिस्ट विल से नो टू एन इंटरव्यू विद इंदिरा गांधी? ही सेड आप 2 घंटे में टेक्निकल एरिया पालम एयरपोर्ट आ पाएंगे कि हम कानपुर जा रहे हैं, वी आर गोइंग टू कानपुर. मिसेस गांधी वॉज कैंपेनिंग इन दैट एरिया. दैट टुक दिस प्राइवेट प्लेन विच द तेलुगु बिजनेसमैन गेव. We were going to Kanpur, so you come and join us. Next morning she will go to Madhav Sindhya's constituency and some other places. So on the plane, on the way, then she will give you an interview. I said okay. Then I go and say, Arun Puri said, are we interested in interviewing Indira? He said, of course. I said okay, get me a tape recorder. They didn't have, you know, the Sony little tape recorders in those days. So the big tape recorder, the size of a radio in those days. So they gave it to me, and then I ring up my wife and say, you know, send my shaving kit and whatever. And it was hectic in those days, so I never would have time to go for a haircut. So I ended up having hair like a Sai Baba, Satya Sai Baba, you know. So then we went and slept in the night in Kanpur in some PSU hostel. It was December, a guest house. And it was cold and it was full of mosquitoes and all kinds of nonsense, so we couldn't sleep the night. In the morning when I opened the shaving kit, my wife could not find the blade. It was an unshaven this thing, and I used to use a brush to comb my hair because a regular comb would not do the job. She could not find that also. So my hair was like this, unshaven face. But saving grace was I had put on a suit which I had bought in London. I put that on with this huge tape recorder aboard the plane. Then after finishing in Madras, India, and some other constituency, we were flying to Chandigarh. So then one of our assistants came and said, Saab ji, Madam aapko yaad kar rahi hai. Then I go there. And then I enter the cabin and Mrs. Gandhi looks at like that with my hair and and she said, please sit. So I sit there and said, what is this in your hand? I said, this is a tape recorder. So, oh, I don't think this will work. She said. I said, why, ma'am? Okay, and if you think that I'll misquote you, I give you an undertaking, I will not misquote you. As soon as you finish talking, I'll go and scribble my notes. So you don't worry on that front. No, I was just joking. Then shoot. So my first question was, Madam, I think what I saw during your week-long travels with you, I saw that, people are with you, you're going to come back, win the election, and congratulations in advance. But what are you going to do with people who gave you a bad name during the emergency, like your own son and Vidyacharan Shukla? Mrs. Gandhi, like all parents, was very fond of her children, and she didn't like Sanjay Gandhi being teamed up with V.C. Shukla and all that, and Avida brow became like the wrinkles. Then, but she controlled her irritation and put on a smile and said, I'm not an astrologer. Election is still a few weeks ago. So let us away. So let us see what happens in the election, then I'll see what happens. So then we landed in Delhi. Because she was a nobody at that point of time. She was, so our plane was parked way back in the technical area, and we were waiting for a ladder so that we could get down the plane. And it took 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Then Mrs. Gandhi goes to the exit and says, Yashpal, idhar aao. This fellow goes running. Haji, so bhai, ये फासला कितना है? No, what is the depth? What is the distance from here to the ground? He said, Madam, 2-3 गज तो होगा. अच्छा चलो मैं खुद के चली जाऊंगी क्योंकि लोग मेरे लिए इंतजार कर रहे हैं. जब लैडर आएगा आप लोग आ जाना. And she jumped from the plane to the ground, and she kept walking so briskly. It was amazing. None of us could believe that. Anyway, that was the story. So I waited for the ladder and my vehicle came. I went and drove straight to my office, typed the interview, went home. It was past midnight, and around 5 o'clock the bell rings. And I said, who the hell is disturbing me at this point of time? When I opened it, there was a courier from the Thomson Press in Haryana carrying a printed copy of India Today, which contains my interview with Indira Gandhi, and also the results of the opinion poll we were conducted, which had predicted that Mrs. Gandhi was going to win with an absolute majority. Please.
You have such a long career. What are the best moments of your life in journalism, and worst, if there's not any, in your life? The second question is that what is the difference between modern day journalism and what journalism will accomplish? What is the message to the young journalist if the journalism standards are falling?
Well, I would say, sorry? Okay. Yeah, I think it was a golden era of journalism when, I was active in the profession, and nobody ever had the guts to approach me and say, why did you write this, or why don't you write this, and that kind of stuff. And I didn't know what fear meant. I did not, neither the editor Arun Puri nor anybody ever said, Venkat, don't write like this, write like this. I just wrote what I believed in, and same thing happened during the NTR thing. I don't know how many of you are aware of the fact that when Mrs. Gandhi sacked Bhavanam Venkatraman and made Kotla chief minister, I said they had an absolute majority in the legislative assembly. Why is Mrs. Gandhi sacking people? Channa Reddy out, Anjaya was out, and Bhavanam, and then Kotla. So I said I want to go to Andhra and do a story, and that's how I came to Hyderabad. Then went and met a lot of people, and N.T. Ramarao had just floated his party a few months before that, maybe 6 months before I actually went, and some gentleman called Yelimanchili Shivaji, he was a politician from Guntur. I met him one of those meetings. I said I would like to meet NTR. She said, I know that gentleman, I'll take you. So then I go and to the Ramakrishna studio, and he was sitting there with a huge statue of Lord Ganesha at the back, and then I had an hour-long interview with him, taped. And I was very impressed by, his campaigning and what he wants to do for Andhra Pradesh, and he had a whole, because I think all the Hindu gods he has played in his movies, And my first exposure to an NTR film was Venkateshwara Mahatmyam in Huzurabad. Huzurabad is about 15-20 kilometers from Hyderabad, Kamalapuram. I was a student. We would hire a cycle, double savari. We would go and watch the film and sleep somewhere near Uppal railway station till they opened the gate, come home, That was my first visit. That was in 1960 or whatever, I don't know. So then I took my own photographs of NTR, gesticulating this with Ganesh ji in the background, and then I go back to Delhi, and then we had an editorial meeting. I said, Kotla is not the story. Then what? I said, NTR. So Arun Puri said, what? NTR. What is that? NTR is short term for N.T. Ramarao, Nandapuri Tarakam Ramarao. Who is he? He's a film star. He's just started a party, and he is going to defeat the Congress party and Indira Gandhi for the first time in the history of Andhra Pradesh. Then he says, Venkat, I don't know who is NTR. How do I expect my readers know about NTR? Do you want me to put this man on the cover? No, I don't think anybody will buy it. So it took me a week to persuade Arun Puri to put NTR on the cover. So I did a longish piece about NTR and how we started the party, this, and then I ended it with one paragraph saying, barring a miracle, the next Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh will be a film star turned politician called Nandamuri Taraka Ramarao, NTR in bracket. And when that issue appeared, that was when people outside of the non-Telugu speaking areas came to know about NTR. And then elections were held. India Today conducted an opinion poll, and India Today poll, which was conducted 3 weeks before the actual election, predicted that, yes. So, but that did not happen. Then I told Arun Puri, listen, people, N.T. Ramarao is carpet bombing, going to every village practically, and Eenadu is publishing his pictures of bathing by the well, and Neelu netti మీద పోసుకుంటున్నాడు, రోడ్ మీద తింటున్నాడు అదంతాను. So he is winning people. Wherever he goes, people of that area will vote for him. So 3 weeks before the election, this opinion poll was held, but by then he had not covered certain parts. So when the election time comes, he would have covered everything, and NTR will win the election. So people took bets with me, and then NTR won. So after NTR won, then I came to interview him. As usual, 4 o'clock, I was summoned in Hyderabad, opposite Sagar Cinema. He used to have a place, Abbotslow. Counting would start only at 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever. So my first question was, what do you have to say about this massive victory? So I took it for granted that he was going to win the election. Then he gave a reply. He was also confident he was going to win. So, but when that interview appeared, there were 200 letters saying, how is it possible even before counting began, you claimed he was going to, well, that is, but this has happened to me with VP Singh. When VP Singh was fighting elections after Rajiv Gandhi was kicked him out. So from his constituency, Fatehpur, we were driving to Allahabad. I told VP Singh, listen, when elections are held, the results come out, I believe that you are going to win the election and you will become the Prime Minister. He was looking shocked. I said, what is this wrong with this man? Even I am not sure about this, and this chap is saying. I said, listen, so I have a set of questions which are based in my belief that I am interviewing the Prime Minister of India. So you answer them as if you have become the Prime Minister, and if you do not become the Prime Minister, I will kill that interview. I will not touch it. Acha, theek hai. Then he said, then I started it. So then I transcribed the interview, sent it to all my papers, Khaleej Times in Dubai and Arab News in Jeddah, the Muslim in Islamabad, the Island in Colombo. I used to do a lot of work. So I instructed them, please wait till you hear from me. If VP Singh is sworn in as the Prime Minister, only then you will publish this interview. So that's precisely what happened. I was present in the Central Hall of Parliament. Chandrasekhar proposes Devilal's name. Devilal says, no, I am withdrawing in favor of VP Singh. Then immediately after I got out of the Central Hall, I sent a message to all these papers, yes, now you can publish the interview and all that. So it was, I did a lot of other things in the neighborhood also. It happened with Benazir Bhutto and Sheikh Mujib's daughter, and in Sri Lanka also. I met the LTT leader Prabhakaran 6 times. And there are several people who said, write about your meetings with Prabhakaran, about Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, I write for a newspaper for more than 40 years now. And when I arrived at the Sri Lanka airport and present my passport to the immigration counter, that fellow looks at my name and, sir, welcome to Sri Lanka. We read your articles in the island and all. So it has been a very interesting kind of experience. You can't count me as among the millionaires of newspaper industry, but it has been a very satisfying life, and నాకు నేను ఒక తలవంచని వీరునిలాగా అనుకుంటాను, and I am grateful to you. Thank you. ఏమండి? Well, people say that there is a woman behind every successful man. I would like to give credit to my wife. She used to take control, look after my library. Even today, I buy about 8 English language newspapers. I read each one of them and mark clippings. I maintain clippings on 1,000 files. Once when the London Times correspondent came to visit my place and he saw my clippings library, he said, Venkat, you can publish a newspaper. In those days, pre-Google era, I had information on my fingertips on any subject, and I never opened my mouth without studying a subject. If I am going to interview somebody, in those days, and then I would go to Sapro's library and read from Encyclopedia Britannica and other reference material. So if I was talking to the President of Bangladesh, he said, oh my God, you know so much about my country, please come and see my country physically. I would get invited like that. So she played a very important role in my life. Unfortunately, I lost her 25 years ago.
లో కూడా ఇస్తున్నారు టైం ఒకటి. ఇప్పుడు దే చేంజ్ సినారియో రీజనల్ ఆస్పిరేషన్స్ బాగా ఉన్నాయి. ఈవెన్ రెండు రాష్ట్రాల్లో కూడా 2 డిఫరెంట్ పర్సెప్షన్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ముఖ్యంగా కాంగ్రెస్లో మీరు ఢిల్లీలో కూర్చుని రాసేటువంటి ఒక సింగిల్ పీస్ ఉండే రిలవెన్స్ ఏమిటి రీజనల్ లాంగ్వేజ్?
See, in fact, when I decided to leave India today, my wife was very concerned. My son was in school and she said, if you leave a regular paying job, it's such a prestigious organization, you know, what about how do we run the house? Then I told her, I will leave India today only when I am absolutely sure that I bring home more money than what India today used to pay me. And she used to complain, the taxation rate was so high. I said, Indira Gandhi takes away more money from your salary than you bring me home, she used to say. So that is when I first made sure that I would syndicate my column in Swati and non-column stuff in Enadu, and then Chitralekha in Gujarati, and the Khaleej Times in Dubai, Jeddah Arab News in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Then only when I had income which was more than what my take home was from India today, was my wife satisfied, and then I decided to take to full-time freelance writing. But freelance writing is not a very dependable source of income anymore. There is a time Khushwant Singh used to syndicate his columns. There is a time when Kuldeep Nair used to syndicate his column. There is a time I also used to write. But today I don't know if syndicated journalism is any beneficial or if it is working out. Language newspapers are very poor paymasters. Once Khushwant Singh told me, my column appears in 200 papers, but even 10 of them don't pay me money. And once I asked Shobha Day, I said, do you make any money at all? She said, Venkat chicken feed. Because I'm married to a rich man, for the agriculture I write. I don't bother. Anyway, I had a role in her becoming a columnist. When I was editing Onlooker, she was running Stardust magazine. One day I went and invited her to write a column on the kind of people she meets and, you know, the parties she goes to and all that. Then I used to print her photograph and publish 800 words. That was the beginning of her becoming a columnist. When she wrote her autobiography called Selected Writings or something, Memory or whatever, she mentions that it all began with Venkat inviting me to write this column and all that. And it's a... Cheppandi.
యూట్యూబ్ ఛానల్స్ సోషల్ మీడియా ఆన్స్లాట్తో అలాగే న్యూస్ ఛానల్స్ ఫ్యూచర్ స్కోప్ కానీ ఫ్యూచర్ సినారియో ఆఫ్ ప్రింట్ మీడియా ఎలా ఉంటుంది?
Print media in the Western world actually is, you can say it's almost on deathbed. All newspapers, their printed number of copies is very limited, but their online editions, they are inviting people to subscribe to them. And the New York Times, 150 rupees a week or something like that, the Washington Post, the Guardian, the Times, the Telegraph, even Indian newspapers like Indian Express, Economic Times, Times of India and Hindustan Times, you know, they are claiming exclusive articles. And if you want to read that, even though you read it in the morning paper, but if you want to read it on their website, they'll say you have to subscribe to this separately. You know, and in spite of the fact that most of the newspapers in the West are having declining circulations, it is in India which the printed word continues to dominate. People think patrikalo vachindandi adi nijame kavachu ani. It used to be the case. I don't know how many people are thinking like that, because most of the newspapers are no longer independent. They are being run by businessmen or even TV channels, political parties are running. I don't have to say anything about the state of Telangana TV industry or newspaper. Godi Media, whatever. So if any publication, TV channel writes things which are even mildly critical, they are getting harassed by authorities, ED, CBI, are going after not just politicians critical of the present regime, but newspapers also. And the bottom line is they are changing the ownership. Gautam Adani has taken charge of NDTV, and News 18 is controlled by Mukesh Ambani, and a lot of these things, which is not a very happy state of affairs. And newspaper journalists who used to enjoy tremendous respect and influence a generation ago no longer do so, because they are working for newspapers where they cannot write what is the truth, but the proprietor is always telling them, if you write this, so and so will not advertise in our publication, or so and so will take away our license, all kinds of things. So that is why the social media has emerged as an important communicator of information. But when something is free, it is bound to be misused. So, I remember what Gandhiji told the English people. English people said, hello, you Indians, I don't think you can run India. You might end up making a lot of mistakes. So Gandhiji smiled and told them, when you are free, you have a right to make mistakes. We would rather be free than ruled by white man. That's what he said. So it's not a happy state of affairs. I don't know what is going to happen 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. But presently, the freedom in the media, that doesn't mean the freedom of journalists. It has now become freedom of the people who own the television stations or newspapers. It's not a very happy state of affairs, I'm afraid. That's a fact of life.
What was the experiences you shared your long journey in journalism in various states? So now I would like you to compare the present situation with the past situation. Like in the 70s, 80s, there's a lot of turbulence in terms of change in leadership, prime ministers, elections, frequent elections. But now if you look at the present state, very stable. Both at the national level, at the state level, stable leaderships. There is no turbulence in terms of change of leadership. So do you see this as a maturity in our democracy, in our people? And do you see we are in the right direction, where stability, peace is kind of finally being achieved by India?
Thank you for that question, Surya. There is no doubt that journalists enjoyed a great deal of freedom, in the 70s and 80s. Things have, gone for the worse, and the emergence of the social media and politicians becoming enormously rich and buying up newspapers, making payments to journalists under the table to ensure, writing of favorable stuff. That seems to have become the practice today. It's not a happy state of affairs, I'm afraid. But sooner or later, this too shall come to an end, let us hope. Thank you. Ramachandra Murthy garu made a documentary, an hour-long documentary. This is how when he was running HMTV, దాంట్లో నేను ఇందిరాగాంధీ నుంచి మాట్లాడినప్పుడు he put Indira Gandhi's pictures and Kissinger అంటే Kissinger అట్లా. I don't know if it is there have been a lot of people who have been asking me to put together my experiences, my life as a journalist. I'm not really convinced that I have done anything remarkable like climbing Mount Everest or running the country as the Prime Minister. But I've not.
You can write whatever you have spoken now. Quite interesting.
Patlana. Well, thank you very much. Let me see if that's possible. I'll do that. Thank you for the suggestion. Namaskar. Aya, namaskar.
మీ ఆర్టికల్స్ మాత్రం భయపడాలి ఇందులో తెలుగు అయినా అప్పుడు వస్తే వెంటనే చెప్తారు ఆ రకంగా నాకు కంప్లైంట్
అయ్యో రామ.
చదవలేదు నేను అనుకుంటున్నాను. అయితే సార్ మీకు ఎక్కడ ఎన్టీ రామారావు రోడ్డు మీద ఉండి గడ్డ చేసుకున్నప్పుడు కవర్ చేసుకుని స్నానం చేసినప్పుడు అది వేసినవాడిని వేయండి ఇచ్చాను నేను. అయితే మీరు ఎన్టీ రామారావు గురించి రాశారు కదా, లక్ష్మీకాంత్ గారు రాశారు కదా, ఏంటి డిఫరెన్స్ బేసిక్గా మీకు ఏమనిపిస్తుంది, తేడా ఏమన్నా?
నేను లక్ష్మీపార్వతి గారి బయోగ్రఫీ నేను చదవలేదు. నేను రాసిన పుస్తకం వెనకాల ఒక కథ ఉంది. ఎన్టీ రామారావు ఎలక్షన్లో గెలిచిన తర్వాత ఆయన ఇందిరాగాంధీని కలిసేందుకు ఒకసారి వచ్చాడు ఢిల్లీకి. అప్పుడు ఉపేంద్ర ఆయనతో పనిచేస్తుండే. ఆయన ఒకరోజు ఫోన్ చేసి, సార్ మీరు ఇక్కడ ప్రముఖ ఎడిటర్స్ పిలవండి లంచ్ కోసం ఎన్టీ రామారావు గారితో. అప్పుడు నిహాల్ సింగ్, గిరిలాల్ జైన్ అండ్ ఆల్ ద టాప్ ఎడిటర్స్ వాళ్ళందరికీ ఫోన్ చేసి పిలిపించాను అనమాట. పిలిపిస్తే ఈయన చెప్పాడు నేను ఏం చేయదలుచుకున్నాను అని. గిరిలాల్ జైన్ అన్నాడు, రామారావు గారు, ఇఫ్ యూ ఆర్ ఏబుల్ టు డూ ఏ ఫ్రాక్షన్, ఇంప్లిమెంట్ ఏ ఫ్రాక్షన్ ఆఫ్ వాట్ యూ ప్రపోజ్ టు డూ, యూ విల్ మేక్ హిస్టరీ, అది అన్నాను అనమాట. సో within a few months after N.T. Ramarao took charge as the Prime Minister, one of the publishers approached me. I said, you know, you're the first person outside of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana who had said that N.T. Ramarao will win the election and become the Prime Minister. Nobody in the country outside of Telugu states knows anything about N.T. Ramarao. So why don't you write a biography here? So I said, I'll see. Then I rang up NTR one day and even in Hyderabad vastunanu, I'm going to do a book about you. Randi tappakunda. Aithe I will need your help. Em kavalo cheppandi ante, I would like to hear the story of your life from your own mouth. I'll come every day with a tape recorder and then give me 2 hours every day. I'll tape and I'll stay in Hyderabad for a couple of weeks and every day 2 hours. And he said, okay. So he would call me at 4 a.m. in the morning. I used to park myself in Abbott's Taj, get up at 3 o'clock, finish shaving, bathing, then appudu scooterlu kuda lekunda kada, not walking distance. Then I would go. By then already people would come and wait for him to see him. And then nagalu kurchoni petti, then he would spend 2 hours face to face. I'll switch on my mobile. నిమ్మకూరు నుంచి కథ మొదలైంది, విజయవాడ వగేరా వగేరా, హౌ ద హోల్ థింగ్ గ్రాఫిక్. సో ద స్టోరీ ఈజ్ యాక్చువల్లీ ఎన్టీఆర్ స్టోరీ ఈజ్ హిజ్ ఓన్ స్టోరీ, ఐ టోల్డ్ బై హిమ్, బట్ ఐ వాజ్ ఇన్స్ట్రుమెంటల్ ఇన్ ద సెన్స్ ఐ వాజ్ పాసింగ్ ఇట్ ఆన్ టు పీపుల్ అనమాట. ఐ టేప్డ్ ఆల్ దోస్ రికార్డ్. అన్ఫార్చునేట్లీ ఐ కెనాట్ లొకేట్ దెమ్ నౌ. టేప్స్ ఇప్పుడు ఉంటే దే ఆర్ హిస్టారికల్ ఇంపార్టెన్స్, ఎనీవే. యా. సో దెన్ ఒకరోజు నేను చూసాను, ఏమంటే మీరు స్పెంట్ ఆల్ యువర్ లైఫ్ ఇన్ ఫిల్మ్స్, హౌ డూ యూ హోల్డ్ ఎ క్యాబినెట్ మీటింగ్? నేను వచ్చి చూడగలుగుతున్నాను. రండి, ఏం పర్లేదని. వన్ డే ఈ కాల్ మీ టు ద క్యాబినెట్ మీటింగ్. నేను పక్కన అక్కడ కూర్చున్న ఒక కార్నర్లో. దెన్ హీ వాజ్ కండక్టింగ్ ద హోల్ బిజినెస్, ఇట్ వాజ్ లైక్ దట్. అండ్ ఎన్టీఆర్ యాజ్ లాంగ్ యాజ్ హీ వాజ్ అలైవ్, మహానారాయణ ఎప్పుడల్లా నన్ను పిలిచేవాడు. ఒకసారి నేను విజయవాడలో పెట్టినప్పుడు నేను అన్నాను, ఏమండి ఇంత ఎండాకాలంలో మీరు ఈ మహానాడు అంటే అందరి ఇబ్బందిగా ఉంది ఈ ఎండలో అంటే, వెంకటనారాయణ గారు తెలుగు వాళ్ళం, ఆవకాయ ఎండ మాకు చాలా ఇష్టం అని అంటుండే. తర్వాత దట్ ప్రాక్టీస్ ఆఫ్ మై బీయింగ్ ఇన్వైటెడ్ ఫర్ మహానాడు, ఈవెన్ Chandrababu continued for some time. When he was sworn in Mangalgiri, he had a chartered plane, load of people from Delhi, Advani, Manohar Joshi, Nirmala Sitharaman, Bilantan. I had gone. When Modi went to inaugurate the founding of Amaravati, I was invited for that. I still, even TDP once, Ashok Gajapati Raju in that plane when you were going to, you put TDP on the national map, so the party is grateful to you. And I don't know, I did what my job required at that point of time. Not that I was playing a historic role or anything like that, but anyway, that's how it is.
సార్, చాలా పాజిటివ్ రెస్పాన్స్ అన్ని మీకు ఉంటాయి. ఏదైనా నాయకుల నుంచి మీకు నెగటివ్ రెస్పాన్స్ కానీ ఇబ్బందులు కానీ కలిగాయి?
Yeah, I cannot recall anything, a politician never questioned me about my right to write what I believed to be worth writing, ఒకసారి చెన్నారెడ్డి, I interviewed him, I think 1980 or 81. I don't know, before introduction లో ఫస్ట్ పారాగ్రాఫ్ ఉంటుంది కదా, before the Q&A, దాంట్లో I may have made some comment which he thought was not flattering. So his PR chief or somebody rang me up, ఆయన చాలా he is very upset and మీరు ఇలా ఆయన అన్నారు అని ఏదాను. That apart, nobody ever questioned me my right, because they believed this guy is his own man. You cannot influence him, you cannot do anything to make him write what he does not believe in. And I think a journalist, if you want to be respected by your readers or by the people you are dealing with, it's very important for you to maintain equidistance and not write something which people might think means chamchagiri of somebody. So much so that once I remember when Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister, Rashtrapati Bhavanlo January 26th ko they invite important people. One day he was the Prime Minister and I can't remember who the President was. పోతే అక్కడ సోనియా గాంధీ కూర్చుంది, నరసింహారావు కూర్చున్నారు, తర్వాత ప్రెసిడెంట్ కూర్చున్నారు, అంతా పోయి నమస్కారం అనండి, ఏమైనా వెంకటనారాయణ కనిపించటం లేదు అని అన్నాడు. అంటే అయ్యా మీరు ప్రధానమంత్రి, నేను ఒక మామూలు జర్నలిస్ట్ను, మీరు దేశం సమస్యల గురించి ఎప్పుడు యు విల్ బి సో బిజీ, ఐ డోంట్ నీడ్ ఎనీథింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ యూ, వై షుడ్ ఐ బాదర్? సో ఇట్ వాజ్ లైక్ దట్. సో బట్ ఐ నెవర్ రియల్లీ మిస్యూజ్డ్ మై access to the Prime Minister. When he was the Prime, ఇక్కడ నుంచి పోయిన తర్వాత మెదక్లో కలిసినాక I used to go and see him regularly. Then when he became the foreign minister, ఒకసారి పోయాను. అయితే he would always call me after 9 o'clock. కాఫీ, మంచి కాఫీ he would give and he will talk. మీరు ఫారిన్ మినిస్టర్ ఎలా అయ్యారండి అని అడిగాను ఒకసారి. ఏం చేయాలయ్యా, ఆవిడ after the elections, Mrs. Gandhi called me and said, Narasimha Rao ji, I'm looking for somebody to take charge as the foreign minister. I looked around at the talent at my disposal and I can't see anybody who is worthy of India's foreign minister, either scholarship or well informed, so except you. I said, Madam, I'm a vegetarian, I don't drink, and at my age I'm not very fond of traveling. Why me? This is a responsibility you must take అని చెప్పింది. సో another ఇంకో వేరే సందర్భంలో ఒకసారి అడిగాను, టెల్ మీ సంథింగ్ అబౌట్ ఇందిరా గాంధీస్ డెసిషన్ మేకింగ్ స్టైల్. సో షీ వుడ్ సే ఇన్ ద క్యాబినెట్ మీటింగ్, బిఫోర్ ఎ మీటింగ్ స్టార్ట్స్, షీ వుడ్ లవ్ సమ్ గాసిప్. Vasant Sate in those days he used to have an affair with a journalist in those. So she said, I hear one of my cabinet colleagues is having a gala time with a journalist. Is that true? What do you know about? So all these fellows would say, వాళ్ళు సిగ్గొస్తుండేనంట. They would never open their mouths. And చేసిన తర్వాత if she had to take a decision on a particular subject, he would say, okay, Narayan garu, please tell me. So and so, please tell me. What do you think? What do you think? And Narasimha garu ikkada kurchunnadu. He was the last person before she would speak. And he would say, madam, these are the pros and these are the cons. These are the plus points, these are the minus points. And she would say, thank you Narasimha Rao ji. And she would then announce her decision. So it was very fascinating. But sometimes if he is saying something which I thought was interesting, before I forget, I want to take the notebook, చిన్న notebook, spiral notebook. అది జేబులో పెట్టుకోవా నువ్వు, పెన్ను జేబులో పెట్టుకో, ఇదంతా నాట్ ఫర్ రైటింగ్, దిస్ ఇస్ ఓన్లీ ఫర్ యువర్ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్. That was the thing. ఒకసారి after he became the Prime Minister, one day I rang up and everybody in his office knew me. He came on the line. ఏమంటే ఎలా నడుస్తుంది రాజా అంటే, మీరే చెప్పాలన్నాయా అంటుండే. So he never gave you the impression that he has become Prime Minister, so he is not accessible, nothing like that. You felt no difference in his behavior towards you when he was an ordinary person, when he was an MP, when he was a minister, when he was the Prime Minister, even after retirement. That was one thing amazing about the Narasimha Rao I like. Mrs. Gandhi was also, in power or out of power, she was absolutely charming. You may not like her policies, emergency, అదంతా వేరే విషయం, కానీ అది చెప్పాను కదా మెదక్లో, until we went she would not touch lunch అని. That is one. ఒకసారి ఆ ఎలక్షన్ రిజల్ట్స్ వచ్చినప్పుడు సంథింగ్ ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ హ్యాపెండ్. ద రిజల్ట్స్ వర్ బీయింగ్ అనౌన్స్డ్ అండ్ ఐ గెట్ ఎ కాల్ ఫ్రమ్ యశ్పాల్ కపూర్ saying that Indraji wants to see you. So then I go and there were 100 reporters waiting downstairs. She was staying in Mother Teresa Road in an MP's quarter. That Ghaffar Khan's son, అతని పేరు మర్చిపోయాను ఇప్పుడు, because she had no place to live of her own because she was not even a member of parliament kada appudu. So there were 100 journalists waiting for her to give her for her first comments after victory in the election. I'm talking about 1980 election. So when I arrived there, then I go up and somebody comes to receive me, and on the first floor there are at least 75 Congress people with Gandhi, Nehru topis waiting for Mrs. Gandhi. So I stood away in a corner away from these congressmen, and Mrs. Gandhi after 5 minutes entered the room, looks like that, and then first comes to you. I said, hello madam, congratulations, I'm very happy for you. She said, thank you. Like a child will respond when a headmistress or class teacher praises for a good performance atla. Then I said, I'm so happy madam, all the best. And I would come up. Then she would go and meet other people. That kind of, it was a remarkable kind of association. If she held a press conference, there were 500 people sitting. If you raise your hand, she would say yes, and you asked a question, and she would give the kind of reply. It would be front page story, lead story the next morning. So it was a remarkable relationship. Even though I did not care much for some of her decisions, but it is a fact that what she did in other divisions, she did a lot of credit to our country, and I'm reasonably proud of Indira Gandhi as a Prime Minister. Not discounting some of the things that were done during the emergency, I do not approve of that, but scorecard pedithe the pluses are more than the minuses. Management? Newspaper? No, my newspaper. No, India Today was being managed by Arun Puri, who is the owner, but it's a different matter that some of the things I did for the paper put the paper on a pedestal. In 1975 it started, till 79, 78, 79 he was struggling, but when I joined India Today, a few months after that elections were announced. Then opinion polls conduct was my idea. Then running the Henry Kissinger autobiography in the paper was my idea. traveling with Mrs. Gandhi and writing about what is going to happen was my idea. Interviewing Jagjivan Ram and asking him, I said, Neelam Sanjeev Reddy did not make you the Prime Minister because you are a Harijan? He said, yes. So that was again a front page story. You know all these things. And I go to Sri Lanka and interview Jayawardena. I said, do you think Indira Gandhi and India is bullying you? He said, yes, India is bullying me. Indira Gandhi does not know that I am a good friend of her father. I used to attend all the Congress party sessions and that figured in the parliament. Oh, we had a gala time one day. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. I'm very happy about my life as a journalist and proud of it. Thank you. చెప్పండి.
ఇప్పుడు పొలిటికల్ పవర్ స్ట్రక్చర్స్ చాలా దగ్గరలో పోయి అనగా ఈ గుడ్ ఆఫీసెస్ ఉపయోగించి తెలుగు స్టేట్స్కి కానీ లేకపోతే ఎవరికైనా కాంట్రాక్ట్ ఇప్పించడం కానీ అంటే ఈ పోస్ట్ని చూసుకుని ఏమైనా జరిగిందా ఎన్జిఓకి ఏదైనా ఫండ్స్ ఇప్పించడం కానీ వాటర్ ప్రాజెక్ట్ కానీ ఇలాంటివి ఏమైనా మీకు తెలియదు ఉన్నాయా?
కూర్చోండి. Now that you asked this question, most people don't know I am from Andhra Pradesh. Neville Mother Janabhas discovered after Indira Gandhi wanted to know that I am from here. ఒకసారి ఏమైందంటే విజ్ఞాన్ భవన్లో some conference, NAM conference or something was happening and there were about in a big hall before the conference starts in Vigyan Bhavan. We were all standing, Mrs. Gandhi came and Mrs. Gandhi was going like that and అందరికి నమస్తే చేస్తూ నా దగ్గరకు వచ్చేసరికి ఒక నిమిషం ఆగింది అక్కడ. షీ ఆస్క్డ్ మీ హౌ ఆర్ యూ, హౌ ఈజ్ యువర్ ఫ్యామిలీ, అది అని. షీ స్పెండ్ మేబీ 45 seconds. That was more time than she spent with other people, you see. So when I exited and walking towards my car, one man comes running. Sir, మీరు తెలుగు వారానంటే అవునండి అంటే, మేడం మీకు బాగా పరిచయం ఉన్నట్టున్నారంటే అట్లా ఏం లేదండి, ఇట్స్ ఎ ప్రొఫెషనల్. అసలు నా పేరు అంటే చంద్రశేఖర్ రెడ్డి, నేను దక్షిణ కాంటికల్ పేపర్ నడిపిస్తాను, రాజ్యసభ కోసం ప్రయత్నం చేస్తున్నాను, కెన్ యూ పుట్ ఇన్ ఎ వర్డ్ టు మీ? ఐ సెడ్ sorry, I don't involve myself in all this. So as a matter of policy, people with whom I have a professional relationship, once they become a minister or prime minister or something, I keep my distance. I don't go to them for anything at all. Jaypal Reddy కూడా అదే అన్నాడు, ఏమైనా ఒక్కసారి కూడా రావు మా ఇంటికి అంటే, ఎందుకు రావాలండి, నేను I don't need anything from you because I am happy being a journalist. My brand value may be, I don't know, maybe only in imagination. I may not have crores of rupees in my account, but I don't need the money. What the hell do I know? I'm happy. ఎవడి ముందట తల వంచకుండా గౌరవంతో గర్వంగా జీవించడమే నా జీవిత ఉద్దేశము, అంతకంటే ఇంకేమీ వద్దు. థ్యాంక్ యూ. అయ్యా లేదు, నేను తెలుగు విత్ గ్రేట్ డిఫికల్టీ మొబైల్ ఫోన్లో తెలుగు స్క్రిప్ట్లో నమస్కారము, థ్యాంక్ యూ, అది అట్లాంటివి నేర్చాను. బట్ నేను తెలుగులో మాట్లాడడం కూడా ఇలాంటి ఏరియాస్లో ఐ హెజిటేట్ బికాస్ ఐఎమ్ అవుట్ ఆఫ్ టచ్ విత్ ద లాంగ్వేజ్ ఫర్ ద లాస్ట్ 50 odd years. ఢిల్లీకి పోయిన తర్వాత ఐ రీడ్ ఇంగ్లీష్ పేపర్స్, తెలుగు పత్రికలు ఎక్కువ ఐ డోంట్ హ్యావ్ ద టైమ్ బికాస్ మై ఏరియా ఆఫ్ specialized in international affairs. So I would spend time reading the New York Times or BBC or online or something. So Telugu రాజకీయాల అనుభవం ఎక్కువ లేదు, ఎక్స్పోజర్ ఎక్కువ లేదు. తర్వాత ఐ డోంట్ కవర్ ఆన్ డే టు డే బేసిక్ పాలిటిక్స్. కాబట్టి ఈ ఎంపీస్ కానీ తెలుగు మంత్రులు కానీ ఎవరు తెలీదు. వెంకయ్య నాయుడు మాత్రం కొంచెం కాస్త పరిచయం ఉండే, ఎందుకంటే వెన్ హీ వాజ్ ఎన్ ఎమ్మెల్యే హియర్, వెన్ ఎన్టీఆర్ వాజ్ టాపుల్డ్, అసెంబ్లీలో నినాదాలు వేస్తుండే, అట్లా అప్పటి నుంచి జ్ఞాపకం ఉంది అంతనే. కానీ వెన్ హీ వాజ్ ఎ మినిస్టర్, వైస్ ప్రెసిడెంట్గా అప్పుడప్పుడు ఆయన విందులు ఇస్తుంటారు, అప్పుడు ఐ గో అటెండ్ దెమ్ ఇఫ్ ఐఎమ్ ఇన్వైటెడ్. బట్ ఐ కీప్ మై డిస్టెన్స్ అండ్ ఐఎమ్ హ్యాపీ. ఐ కాంట్ సే ఐఎమ్ ప్రౌడ్, బట్ ఐఎమ్ హ్యాపీ దట్ ఐ కెన్ సే దట్ ఐ do not have any intimate relationship with any politician, not just Telugu fellows, but anybody. I keep my distance. If I think I need to go and meet somebody, I meet him for professional reasons. తర్వాత people cultivate that relationship, go and get some favors done. I said, I don't need any favors. I'm happy with my modest way of life and my style. అంతనే దూరంగా ఉంటాను, హాయిగా ఉంటాను, గొడవలు ఏమి ఉండవు. అయ్యా దాన్ని గురించి I don't want to say anything because somebody might write a story about it. I don't want to take sides. Good luck to the people of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Let them choose who they want.
జర్నలిజం పవిత్రమైంది, జర్నలిజం గొప్పది. మన జర్నలిస్టులు కూడా చాలా మీలాంటి అందరూ కూడా నిబద్ధులై ఉన్నారు ఇక్కడ. కానీ కొన్ని పత్రికలు యాజమాన్యాల వైఖరి వల్ల వాళ్ళ నిర్లక్ష్యం వల్ల ఇక్కడ వాళ్ళ ఒత్తిడి వల్ల ఒక మార్గం పడుతున్నాయి. జర్నలిజం తప్పుదారి పడుతుందన్న ఒక స్పష్టత ఉంది, ఆరోపణలు ఎంత అవుతుంది?
అదే I cannot dispute that, Andy. The state of journalism in Andhra Gani, Telangana today, or in India as a whole, is not a happy state of affairs. The political parties have their own TV channels. You have JR TV or Karunanidhi TV. Gani. Telangana lo kudanu, I think the ruling party has its own newspaper, TV channel, adi, and every day the owners paper, whether it is the chief minister or whoever, his newspaper, his picture must come on the front page. That it has been reduced to the same state like in the Gulf states. Any Dubai newspaper will have the Sheikh's picture on the front page. Today his temperature is 43 degrees Atlantic, and for some stupid excuse they put the picture. Atla, it has been reduced to that kind of state. This is absolutely ridiculous. But I do hope that it will not last very long. Once the person whose praises are being sung at this moment because he is in power, tomorrow the fellow loses his power, that paper will shut down or it has to, change its policy or something. Let us hope better sense will prevail and journalists will regain their glory sooner than later. Thank you.
చాలా సంతోషం. ఈ కార్యక్రమంలో విజయవంతంగా జరగడానికి హాజరైన మీ అందరికీ కృతజ్ఞతలు చెప్పుకోవడం తప్ప వెంకటనారాయణ గారు వంటి అనుభవం స్వీయ అనుభవాలని అదృష్టం ఈ ఏజ్లో మా అందరికీ కట్టడం నిజంగా ఒక రూల్ మూమెంట్స్ లాగా భావిస్తూ ఇంకా ఆయన చెప్పదలుచుకుంటే ఎక్కువ చెప్పగలరు. కానీ వేరే వాళ్ళు శాస్త్రం చేసుకుంటారు. రెండవది మంచి ఏర్పాటు చేశారు. మనం కూడా పెద్దవాళ్ళు చేసి కాస్త రిలాక్స్ చేసి వెంకటనారాయణ గారు రాజీవ్ గాంధీ రాజకీయాల్లో రావడానికి నిరాకరిస్తున్న టైంలో ఆయన మూడు విధానాలు అన్ని అడిగి తెలుసుకోవాలంటే మనకు ఒక నవల పడుతుంది. కనుక దయచేసి ఈ కార్యక్రమాలు ముగించి కృతజ్ఞతలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాను. మీ అందరూ అనుమతితోటి ఒక రిక్వెస్ట్, ఇంత అనుభవజ్ఞులైన వెంకటనారాయణ గారు మన స్థానాల్లో కూర్చొని కరకాల
ఇది మీద